It all starts with a dead girl.
Welcome to Outrun Gaming. I'm Boonsies.
And I'm Inferior GD.
Today we're looking at the newly released game Medium. Medium is a linear third-person psychological horror game that was developed by Bloober Team. Medium was released for Microsoft Windows and Xbox on January 28, 2021. The game is currently free on Game Pass or retails for $74.95 Australian on the Microsoft Store.
Medium follows female protagonist Marianne. After the death of her foster father, Marianne receives a call from a guy named Thomas that is in urgent need of her help at Neva Resort. This is where our story begins.
So, where to begin with this game?
Well, I reckon we just start at the top, start with the graphics.
The environmental design is gorgeous and gave me such strong Silent Hill vibes. The spirit world? I could have easily played that whole entire game in the spirit world, it looks so good.
Yeah man, like the contrast, the high contrast between the real world and the spirit world was amazing. You had, the contrast in the real world was dark, cold, grim, often low light. When you go to the spirit world, it's got a warm, eternal fire feeling to it. Hints of torture, bit of this, bit of that, which we'll get into very soon.
Speaking of torture, there's one thing I think the Bloober Team got right. It's the character designs. If you look at Sadness, for example, who has that decaying flesh, those torn muscle fibers, and that porcelain mask, which is also used by other characters, I mean, she looks incredible. The mask design itself, and how it just looks severely worn, and just that distressed look on it, adds a lot of depth to the character. Yeah,
man, for sure. Like, to be honest, like, one of my favorite characters in this game is the Moor. He's got great character design, really unsettling personality. And great voice acting, constantly being stalked throughout the game, not knowing when he'll show.
Don't look at me!
Starts off in the spirit world, but then follows you through to the real world. It's just, he's a really good character. And he gave me chills, man. Like, he was chasing me for quite some time playing this game, and yeah, gave me shivers.
The game desperately needed more of him. There were parts of the game that really slowed down, and I felt him coming back could give it a really big jolt of energy and just try to terrify you. You could make the stealth aspect of the game a lot more challenging, and you could get a better experience trying to get away from him.
100%, man. More.
What we definitely don't want is low frame rates and frame rate drops within a game today.
Yeah, man. I mean, just in the cutscenes with the image tear and what looked to be such low-res rendering of characters, there was quite a lot of blurring in the game and often very grainy outline around the characters.
So when I'm getting into the game and I'm really into the atmosphere, these cutscenes really need to draw me in. They need to keep me compelled and draw me further into the game. Unfortunately, what you just mentioned takes me out of the game, and I just found it completely frustrating.
Yeah, man, it reminded me of the PS1 days, you know what I mean? Like, you go play a game, and you're really into it, and then you get this little fade-out black screen, and then there's a mad cutscene coming, and you get ready for it. You're just like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. But in this circumstance, it's so jarring that you just don't want it. You don't want any more cutscenes once you've had a few in this game. It just takes you completely out of the game. I fully agree with you.
Speaking of, it's pretty easy to see where Medium draws its inspiration from. It basically plays like old school horror games of years gone by where all camera angles are fixed.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, everyone loved Resident Evil, Silent Hill. We all loved it. But in 2021, we really don't want to be walking into walls when we're trying to enter a room from a hallway.
I'm so happy you said that, because I seriously thought I was like a pretty crappy gamer.
Mate, look, the fact that the camera angles change so much and they're fixed, I get that it's meant to build up tension and make it a little bit more scary. But honestly, when I walk into a room and that camera angle flicks, I don't know whether I was going left, right, often made my character look like they had no idea what they were doing because I didn't know what I was doing and which way I was meant to be going after the camera flicked.
I think one other problem with the camera as well is I'm not concerned about the horror or the terror of the Moor. I'm more concerned about looking in every nook and cranny for hidden items, for clues to actually fix the puzzle.
That's right, and in a way, like from my point of view, this game kind of almost took the experience away from you. Like sometimes you got so focused on making sure that you didn't miss something. Quite often you'd have to go into spirit view or whatever we want to call it just to find objects or footprints along the ground, And often found that when doing this, it took me away from the gameplay and what I was meant to be doing because I was too busy making sure that I didn't miss anything.
You talk about spirit world and normal world and missing stuff. I know the duality and the split screen of the worlds is a big gimmick for this game. When I'm looking for clues or trying to interact with things, I found myself only looking at the spirit world or the regular world, trying to find what I'm looking for.
Right? When it goes split screen, you've got the normal world, you've got the spirit world. I was the same. I was always looking at the spirit world. It just looked so much better, and it drew my attention because it was a brighter source on the screen.
I will say this. The best decision I made in this game was actually moving from a keyboard to a gamepad. I was hating life, like absolutely hating life on that keyboard.
Yeah, man, I fully agree. I played quite a lot of time on the keyboard, and the fact that I'd be trying to get my character down a straight hallway and constantly be having to hit an alternate between forwards and left or forwards and right to keep my character going straight. Once I finally switched to a controller, as you recommended, gameplay was amazing. Yeah, well, amazing. It was a lot better.
I have to mention in this game about the abilities and the powers you're given, well, the lack thereof. This game had so much potential to actually give the medium Marianne powers. Like, you could give Thomas some sweet powers. In this game, you've got two powers. One, a shield, which all it does is fend off moths. It's used 2 or 3 times. Same thing with Thomas. You are given a shield, and all he does is fend off some weird green looking tentacles. That was it. Second power you have that Marianne uses, I guess a fair bit, is, I guess, energy in her hand, which is only used in this game to light fuse boxes. There is nothing else in this. Just bang, no electricity, let's light a fuse box.
The puzzles, man. The puzzles, like, you would think that the puzzles would get harder as you went on in the game. But they didn't. It was like, fair enough, at the start, nice and easy, kind of an introduction into puzzles. But as the game went on, they didn't change. They didn't get harder, they didn't get more complicated, they just stayed the same. It's like forever, and that was the only thing, as you said, that we could use that power for, was charging fuse boxes.
I'm going to give them credit for this later on in the game. They're quite self-aware, where Marianne actually makes a comment. Oh, no electricity, of course.
Yeah, they actually knew that this was the only thing that the power was good for. The character knew.
Ugh, out of juice. Because, of course it is.
If you're going to make a game that's based around puzzles, you just need variety.
Absolutely, man. It's got to get harder as time goes on in the game. Otherwise, it's just rinse and repeat, and we're doing the same thing over and over again, which is exactly what this was.
There was a lot of rinse and repeat in terms of walking around and talking. This was a walking, talking simulator. Kind of like my everyday life.
Speaking of walking simulator, how about the running animation of the lead character? Reminded me a lot, again, I know we spoke about it, of Resident Evil, Silent Hill kind of vibes. But honestly, they probably could have done a bit more to animate the character when they're running. They really, to me, looked like an old 60-year-old person entering a marathon and doing their absolute best, but they got a slight, brisk walk on. And that's the best they could do, which is fine for a 60-year-old, but maybe not in this game.
This game, I'm gonna sum this game up with this. It's a short game, but it just feels really, 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 really long. Let's talk about another one of the positive things in this game, the music.
Mate, the music score in this game was amazing. It was impactful, often increased the amount of tension that you felt while you're going through those actual high tense areas or being chased by the Maw. The whole game had a well-designed musical score that only heightens the existing feelings of the environment as you travel through the game.
I think music in a game is extremely underrated because that's what sets the scene, that's what sets the atmosphere. The times I was in the game, like really into the atmosphere and everything, the music was 10 out of 10. That's what helped me get into it.
Yeah, man. I couldn't agree more. One of the best things to come out of this game was the musical score. And, you know, we know this. It was the same composer that did the Silent Hill. We all love that music. And it really shone through the game.
You know what else shone through the game is the voice acting. Like 10 out of 10, professional.
Mate, couldn't agree more. The Troy Baker, who does the voice for The Maw, he got me. He had me in that game, and I absolutely loved it. Loved every minute of it.
His voice acting made me extremely uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable. So uncomfortable.
I think that's why I wanted to face him more, is that uncomfortableness. He really just brings out negative feelings in you. They hit the mark with him so well.
I got absolute shivers, like, down my legs while I was playing, when he is chasing you, murmuring all his very bad things that he's murmuring at you.
Whatever the opposite of Sweet Nothings is, he was delivering.
Yeah, really great voice actor, great character, well placed in the game. Probably my favorite thing of the game was the voice acting mixed with the Maw. Really, really good.
Where is she? Do you not come?
But when something is so good, it's going to expose your other areas, and with the voice acting being so good, like, I know this was a big gripe for you, was how it did not match the animation.
Yeah, that's right, man. It was a big thing for me while I was playing that, you know, while we were playing, and I know we've talked about this previously, but when the cutscenes come along and the voices don't line up with the mouth movements in the cutscene, it really takes me out of it, and I really start focusing on all the bad points. And it's so jarring going out of a cutscene after seeing that and heading back into the game that you've just had a really good time with. It's just, yeah, it did ruin it for me a little bit.
Now, with a game that has no combat, it's always going to rely heavily on its story. That's what's going to suck you in. That's what's going to keep playing. So for me, what I found was I wanted to know more about the characters. What happened? What was going on? So with some of the puzzles and the mysteries, yeah, it added to the story. It added to the game. That's great. I will say one thing though, the Thomas character, I wanted to know more about him. We only found out about Thomas towards the end of the game, right at the end. To me, he was such an intriguing character, such a great backstory. I'm not going to give away spoilers, but he was a highlight for me.
Yeah, I guess coming out of the story, obviously trying not to reveal too many spoilers, as you mentioned. Yeah, I fully support that. I think that they should have spent more time developing his character, only to have, you know, kind of a notion of him at the start, and he's the person we're obviously looking for throughout the story. But, you know, him coming into play, 35 minutes, 40 minutes before the end of the story, I definitely agree. There should have been more.
That's the problem with the game as well. It's such a slow pace. It's such a slow burn. You're expecting just something epic at the end, and the game wraps itself up in the last 20 minutes. And I know with me personally, I was left kind of going, wait, that's it? So they've wrapped everything up at the end, but I've done all this, you know, 7.5 hours gameplay, and this is how it ends. It just made me feel like it was such a short story, like, that felt so long.
Yeah, the ending left you being like, wait, what? You know, what's next? What is next? You know, is there another one coming out? Do we know? We don't know. You know, maybe there will be, hopefully, when they do bring out another one. If they bring out another one, it'll be a bigger game, much more content, maybe develop a bit more of Marianne's powers. Maybe we'll see about that. But, you know, what do you reckon we get into the review?
Just saying it's time for the final verdict.
Definitely time for the final verdict.
So to me, Medium seems to play more like an interactive movie than anything else. There's very little horror, and outside of solving puzzles, it's a walking and talking simulator. You could best describe it as a supernatural psychological mystery. not a horror game.
Out of 10, what would you rate this game?
It's a 5 out of 10. The good cancels out the bad cancels out the good. Give me your thoughts on it.
To be honest, I can't add too much more to what you've already said. I don't want to sound like a broken down record. I agree with everything you just stated then. As a final assessment, I'm probably going to go a 5 out of 10.
So what do you recommend viewers do? Do they buy it? Do they not buy it?
To be honest, if you've got Game Pass and you're not going to pay anything for the game other than your monthly subscription, it's probably worth playing. I'm sure there's updates coming out, if not have already come out, between us playing and creating this video. If it came to buying the game, I probably wouldn't do it. Not for the price that it's sitting at. It's priced as a AAA game, to be honest. And for 9.5, 10 hours story, max, I really don't think you should be dropping, 79 Australian dollars or 50 US dollars on this.
Look, I 100% agree with you. I wouldn't buy this game. It's on Game Pass. It's free with your subscription. That's all you need to know.
Alright, thanks guys. Thanks for joining us. Like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye and good night.